In this video, we're going to talk about the latest plot developments from the TV show Severance. We're going to cover specifically episodes 6 and 7, and I'll go over my theories and where I think the show is heading. I'll also give you an update on some of my theories from my previous videos on whether or not those are still relevant. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and also drop a comment. You know, it's interesting to see what other people think about this show. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So in episode 6, titled Attila, we witness significant advancements in Mark Scout's journey. He's working closely with the Saul Regabi to understand his wife Gemma's situation, known to Lumon employees as Miss Casey. Mark's determination to uncover the truth about Gemma's fate drives much of this episode's tension. Meanwhile, on the severed floor, relationships among the team deepen. You've got Helly and Mark, they share an intimate moment, while Dylan and Gretchen's connection grows stronger. These evolving dynamics add layers to the characters we've come to know so far. This episode culminates in a tense scene where Mark's reintegration process faces unforeseen challenges, leaving the viewers on the edge of their seats. The big thing about Severance for me is that I feel like, you know, you're watching it and it's like not much is happening. You go through each episode and you're thinking that all the questions that you have will be solved. At the last like 10 minutes of the episode, things really ramp up and it gets really good, and then you're like on the edge of your seat, and then it ends, and then you're left with more questions than you had when you started the episode. It's like a love-hate relationship with Severance at this point. For some reason, I keep coming back. I don't know. Cutting to episode 7 now, which is called Shikai Bardo, I believe. It takes us deeper into Lumon's unsettling practices. We learn that Gemma, previously believed to be dead, is alive in Lumon's facilities, operating under the identity of Miss Casey, which we knew before, but this episode really highlights her and it's really focused on her character. She's the subject of a series of distressing experiments, shedding light on Lumon's dark objectives. I mentioned in a previous video that the theory that I had about Miss Casey was that she was a test subject and that ultimately macro data refinement was aiding in the testing of the chip, which she is the subject of, right? So they have the chip in Miss Casey's brain and macro data refinement is helping Lumon test that chip. And unfortunately, the sad thing is that Mark is married to Miss Casey. He kind of feels like this weird maybe connection to her on the inside. Unfortunately, Mark is helping Lumon do these horrible experiments on his wife, who his outer self thought was dead. It's really just kind of messed up, to be honest with you. I feel like it's good writing, but at the same time, it's a little bit cold-blooded because I'm like, you got to be kind of cold-blooded to write something like that as a TV show writer. The episode dives into Lumon's severance technology, suggesting it's designed to detach individuals from negative experiences. So more so than obviously just going to work. Maybe a lot of people feel like that's a negative experience, but they're trying to refine this technology to detach somebody from anything. So maybe you don't like cooking dinner, so you get a chip in your brain so that whenever you walk into the kitchen, boom, you're severed. And when you leave the kitchen, you have no memory that you cooked dinner or whatever. Episode 7 raises questions about the true purpose behind the employee's work and the company's end goals. Some of my theories are holding up, some are not. The theory that I had about Fields being the guy at the beginning of episode 6 doing the whistling tune was not correct. That was wrong. That was actually Dr. Mauer. And Mauer in German, weirdly enough, actually means wall. When you look at this sort of episode, if she wants to kind of get out, she has to overcome this huge wall that we don't know if she's actually going to be able to overcome. However, I still feel like Fields is going to play some sort of role because it just seems like when Bert and Irving were at that dinner with Fields, it seemed like there was too much tension going on, that there was information that Fields knew, and so I just can't imagine that he is not affiliated with Lumon or has been in the past in some way, shape, or form. As far as predictions about where the show is heading, we anticipate that Mark's quest to reunite with Gemma will obviously intensify and potentially lead to a broader rebellion against Lumon's unethical practices. On the severed floor, I think they're going to kind of bond together and eventually it's going to have to come to a head. Obviously, with this information, I've been kind of theorizing and trying to come up with what I think is actually going on. And one of the theories is that Lumon aims to create emotionless workers, essentially stripping individuals of their humanity to achieve corporate efficiency. And you see that with Gemma. She's basically severed into a bunch of different people. She goes into these different rooms. She experiences something different. She goes to like one for the dentist, one where it's like Christmas, and she doesn't have any knowledge when she exits that room really of what we know. You know, they're different people because it's like spatially dictated technology or whatever. So these are different rooms, different sets if you call it. It's got this one dude named Dr. Mauer who's this creepy doctor that dresses up in these weird disguises in each different room. She doesn't recognize them. They're basically testing like, oh, okay, like do these severance barriers hold? You know, we expose her to a really tumultuous situation. She's in there and she's having a horrible time. Then she exits. Does she remember anything? That's how they're testing the technology. And you've got the same doctor that's in there who's really kind of like behind it all. And he's like this new villain. And he's also kind of suspect because he's got this weird like attraction to Gemma. She's a slave basically. She can't leave. And this episode explores that as well. Really, episode 7 just shows that Gemma and Mark, you know, they got swoop duped is what I call it. They got tricked, right? They got bamboozled because we see that Lumon really was a part of the journey like for a long time, really since they met. You know, it shows that Mark and Gemma, they meet at college because they're professors and they're donating blood. You can see that there's a Lumon logo. There's a shot of it, the little like water droplet, I guess you would call it. You have to pay attention to actually see it. They were there from the beginning, and then Mark and Gemma, they go through these struggles, these relationship struggles, and that's really what the episode is about. It's about who is Gemma, right? How do Mark and Gemma, what's their story, and specifically what's Gemma's story, but they go through these struggles of trying to conceive a child. She ends up going to a fertility clinic. Dr. Maurer, the dude that ends up basically keeping her captive, is at that fertility clinic. And so what it seems like is that she was chosen pretty much to be the test subject for Lumon. Now, it's not really clear to me if she actively signed up for it, but you can see throughout the episode that this is bigger. It was a play. Like they were actively seeking, and they realized that there was like a little bit of a wedge going on between the relationship. I think that Gemma is being groomed. I think maybe perhaps they saw that she was vulnerable, and I think the end goal for Lumon is really to try to recreate Kier, right? To give rise to a new version of Kier. And I think perhaps, maybe, that Gemma is supposed to bear that child. I don't know, but it is oddly weird. I mean, Mark seems to be the most important character because macro data refinement, Cold Harbor, is stuck at 96%. They only really care about him because they fired the other employees, but then they gave him a 20% raise to come back. And when he wasn't finishing, the file, they brought his friends back. So it seems like Mark is really essential. And then you've got like Helly, she's attracted to Mark, but also Helena's attracted to Mark, it seems like. They're having, relations. I don't know. The idea of new life seems to be really pressing. I just don't know if it's going to be Gemma or if it's Mark. I mean, because it could go either way. It could be that Mark and Helly, that they're supposed to like conceive a child or something like that, which would be really weird. But I do believe that that's, some sort of angle for Lumon, that they're really trying to create a new human being, whether it's Kier or something. The other theory is that they're trying to control people with these chips and basically create the perfect person, maybe take away pain entirely. So just robots essentially, and control. If someone doesn't like to fly on planes, then they remove that fear because they sever that person from that experience. So someone can go on a plane and not even realize that they ever did it. Severance continues to masterfully blend suspense, emotion, and thought-provoking themes. As the story unfolds, I'm eager to see how these plot lines converge and what fate awaits the characters. Stay tuned for more updates, theories, and in-depth analysis. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below.